That's all the media and the politicians are ever talking about, the things that separate us. Race, religion, ethnic and national background, jobs, income, education, social status, sexuality. Anything they can do, keep us fighting with each other so that they can keep going to the bank.
People are going to be doing what they always do when the economy tanks. They will be blaming immigrants and corporate.
This country has proven resilient based on the fact that its foundation is the age of reason.
America is just now coming to grips with what unfolded here in the early morning hours here in Orlando.
In this city, thousands of demonstrators marched to protest the death of Eric Garner.
Breaking news, a fresh act of madness. The snipers hit 11 police officers.
Gun sales in this country are spiking in the aftermath of the San Bernardino terror attack.
We're bringing it on ourselves. And that's the thing. Al-Qaeda, all those guys, ISIS, they're not compared to the damage that we can do ourselves on a regular basis.
Thanks for joining us on the Age of Reason podcast. This is episode 41 with Mike and Alex, where we are not for the faint of thought. So I'm just going to jump right into it. I just got done watching the vice presidential debate between Tim Kaine and Mike Pence. Honestly, the whole thing was basically Tim Kaine calling out Donald Trump for things that he said, derogatory comments about women, Muslims. I mean, you name the group, anybody other than white males. But he hasn't also, I mean, he said he loves uneducated people, so that would be Cletus and Skeeter over there in the South. So he's pretty much attacked every other group. And just a few things, Tim Kaine. What?
You whipped out the Mexican thing again.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was wondering what he meant by that. Was he talking about El Camote or what?
I know it's different than when I whip out the Mexican thing, but
Trump's orange chili. I mean, what are we talking about? I thought the same thing when he said that. I like Tim Kaine's performance. I think he did well. He was a little more. He interrupted he interrupted Mike Pence a bit more, and he was a little more energetic. But honestly, that's kind of what I wanted to see from him. It was the first real glimpse we've gotten of Tim Kaine. He actually looked at Mike Pence after one of his comments and said, "You are Trump's apprentice," which I thought was great. That was in the beginning, but a few other stabs that he took at him. He really hit Pence hard on Trump's tax returns that he has not released. And he said, even Richard Nixon released his tax returns. Tell me Trump can do better than Richard Nixon. That was a very good stab as well. Pence defended stop and frisk, which I really didn't think Pence was going to do. That was a little bit shocking. But basically, one of the worst things that I heard from Pence was when they were talking about abortion. Tim Kaine said his speech, basically, he was raised Catholic. He does not agree with abortion. However, he does not agree with anybody's personally held religious beliefs being put on everybody else. You keep that personal. That's not for the state to decide. And then criticize Donald Trump for saying that women should be punished for abortions. Pence denied that. First, he denied it, and then he said, why does your candidate support this? And Pence's reply was, look, Donald Trump isn't a polished politician. I mean, what do you think of this?
That's like the last ditch effort that they have to try to explain away Donald Trump. There's no logical way to back that up. Any thinking person that's trying to advance Trump's chance for presidency at some point just has to say, oh, fuck it. He doesn't know what he's talking about. That's basically what they're saying.
Well, honestly, I think Kaine has given the best debate out of all four of them, in my opinion. He kept slinging them at Pence, and he did something really well where he basically complimented Pence a lot while telling him the error of his ways. There was a lot of lines that Kaine started off by saying, he'll say his point, and then he'll say, Mike, I really cannot understand how you could defend this type of behavior. And then Pence wouldn't. would deflect, he would dodge the questions, and then basically say he's been defending Donald Trump. But I will say this: I'm expecting the moderator to get shit for this. Twice, the 2 times Mike Pence brought up Hillary Clinton's email scandal, he was out of time, and right as he brought it up, the moderator cut him off and said they had to move on. I'm waiting to hear from Donald Trump. I've been checking his tweets. I haven't seen anything yet, but I've been waiting to hear that the liberal CNN media was basically not allowing this to happen, because this is what happened last week with CNN. They said that the liberal media was not asking Hillary Clinton the tough questions.
I liked when the moderator asked Pence, can you please describe your and Trump's relationship? And he said, I try to spend a little bit of time on my knees every day. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. That wasn't the question. It was actually a question about religious faith. But
yeah, pleasing Trump's orange chili. That's yeah, and Ted Cruz said that when him and Jeb Bush and Mike Huckabee went and were at that preacher, I forget his name, but the one that was advocating for killing gays, not the one from Arizona, but he was from Midwest, something like that.
Yeah, that other one. But yeah,
fucking whack job.
He did say something pretty similar regarding spending time on their knees and all that. So it's pretty funny soundbite, and I mean, since like a softball
and whipping
for us,
out the Mexican thing.
it's like a softball. Yeah, so we have a listener question today. It's I was raised an atheist, but as I enter my 40s, I'm beginning to feel the presence of a higher power for the first time. While I do believe in Christ, I don't want to be part of the traditional Christian ideology because much of it doesn't make sense. What is your stance on how I should proceed?
Well, we've talked before about cherry picking religion, and I don't know what your stance on this is, but mine is, if you're going to say you're a Christian or a Muslim or whatever the hell, you need to accept all of that religion, and you have to do that, because if you're a Christian, as we'll find out in our next segment, if you're a Christian and you do not accept the book of Genesis, you don't accept the story of Adam and Eve, or this, you don't accept that Satan is real or hell is real, which is a stance that has been changed in the Catholic Church in recent years. They moved away from the fire and brimstone stuff. If you're the first time you're willing to put a crack in that wall, as you and I put it, it's going to continue to crumble. That crack doesn't just sit there. So I would say that if you're basically looking for another religion that suits you, and you were raised an atheist, I mean, I would want to know, I'm curious as to why you'd want to go back to religion, but there is no religion that suits you. There's no other religion that believes in Christ. There's different sects, but I would think the generic Christian, as we call them, is probably the most relaxed on the crazy shit that this guy's trying, or guy or girl, is trying not to be a part of. So my suggestion would be, stick with the atheism. Or hey, if you want to be a deist, we're anti-theists, not anti-deists. If you want to believe in intelligent design somehow or creationism, but you leave all the social bullshit aside, I have no problem with that. I would suggest looking into deities. Good luck.
Yeah, I guess I would just re-examine all the things that we typically talk about. I think if you require evidence, and if evidence is important to you, I think you'll definitely see a lack of in the Christian faith and all religions. And I would just the deity thing, the deist position is an okay position, but I think there's still, while we haven't discovered them all, there are natural beginnings to all the questions, and I think as time goes and science catches up, I think we will discover those, and hopefully that will put an end to bring even more people, I guess, to our side.
Yeah, and lastly, to comment on feeling the what do you say? Feeling the presence of a higher power, right? So, your wife gave me a saying that I've used over and over again since I heard it from her, which is luck is taking probability personally. And so, in my opinion, if you're looking for a higher power, if you genuinely want to believe that there is one, you're going to find reasons to believe in one. Certain things are going to reaffirm your faith if that is the direction you want to go, because faith does not require evidence. So I agree. Always re-examine the evidence. But speaking of evidence, let's get into our new segment, Skeptic Sunday School. So what we're going to do in this segment is once a week, we're going to do one of two things. And both of them is going to require us to bash religion, which is what we do. So either we're going to take a story that you know, and we're going to go over the scientific evidence or lack thereof and why it is false, or we're going to educate you guys on a religion like Hinduism or Buddhism or even mythologies that existed thousands of years ago, just so we have kind of a educational stance. So, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, please bow your heads and let us think. So, today we're going to start with Noah's Ark. So before we get started, let me read a passage from Noah's Ark, just to give you guys a feel of the all-loving God that most Christians worship. It says, "The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of those humans and their hearts was only evil all in time. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on earth, and his heart was deeply troubled." I'm going to repeat that line. The Lord regretted that he had made human beings on earth, and his heart was deeply troubled. So the Lord said, "I will wipe from the face of the earth the human race I have created, and with them the animals, the birds, and all the creatures that move along the ground, for I regret that I have made them." Mr. Infallible is having a regret. But Noah found favor in the eyes of the Lord, and thus we have the story of Noah. Now, long story short, the story of Noah, he was 500 years old somehow, and he basically prayed to God. God came to him, told him to build an ark, take animals 2 by 2, load them on the ark, and they will survive 40 days and 40 nights of rain for a total year of flooding.
It sounded almost like a journal entry from God, huh? It's like,
yeah, exactly.
When are we going to get the new, somebody going to steal his new journal and see how he feels about the next 2,000 years?
The newer Testament, and it begins with, "Dear Abby, it is I, the Lord." So there's so many issues with this. I'm going to name off a few here. So just to be clear, as far as the size of this ark, I mean, believe me, there are some slow balls on Noah's Ark. But just thinking about the things that people probably haven't thought of, it would require 65,000 pounds of food just to feed the hippos, just to feed the 2 hippos, not counting the polar bears, the lions, all these other animals that have enormous diets. A few other ones is most of the animals would not have made it in time to get on the ark. Not to mention, if this was only 6 to 12,000 years ago, Pangaea, the supercontinent, when all of land was pretty much connected, was not present 6 to 12,000 years ago. That was millions of years ago. So not only did they not have a path, but penguins, they would be on like their 4th generation of children by the time they got to the Middle East in order to board the ark. Not to mention, I guess Johnny Appleseed was around to communicate all this to the animals.
Well, those giant Galapagos tortoises, they kicked it into high gear.
Yeah, they jumped on the EAC, bro.
So one thing, that obviously, there's murder there. God is wiping out the entire race. But the other thing that would kind of a Christian maybe trip them up is how about abortion? I mean, how many of those women were pregnant at the time that God flooded them out, right? So you can say he's guilty of a mass abortion, right there. And as far as, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, for me, the deepest part of this is Mr. Infallible had a regret. I mean, that's huge. You would think if you're infallible, every decision you make is, because God is perfection, right? So every decision you make is perfection. There is no need for regret. Regret is an emotion that God would have created for humans to have, but could have never experienced himself. A few other things. So you bring up 2 by 2, all the different animal species, and then you had Noah and his family. You cannot repopulate 2 by 2. You need at least 50, so 25 women, 25 males of a specific species in order to repopulate. And not to mention, every time a lion eats a zebra, the entire species of zebras is fucking gone. They're not coming back every time that happens. Not to mention the vegetation. All the herbivore species would have died because when you raise water over Mount Everest, so it's supposed to be, I think, 20 feet above Mount Everest, which would amount to about 29,000 feet of water, would cover that. You're mixing fresh water with salt water, which is killing the abundant seafood supply. It's just crazy.
Yeah, on the water, somebody did the math, and a Category 5 tropical storm gets 6 inches per hour of rain. For this to happen within the time period that it supposedly rained, and for the water to get that high, it would have been 6 inches per minute, which would have decimated the ark, unless it was made of gopher wood. So I don't think the gopher wood would have stood up against 6 inches per
not
minute.
only that, I don't have the scientific evidence on me to back this up, but I would also say that it is impossible to experience floods of 29,000 feet worldwide because there's not enough water to do that. And as the water continues to accumulate on land, it's going to flow right back into the gigantic hole that is the oceans that we have on this planet. It couldn't happen fast enough. I mean, unless God basically, I don't know how, poured a glass of water and then sucked up all the rest. I don't know. It doesn't make sense, but that's what we get for trying to make sense of biblical stories.
There's civilizations in China and Egypt that have been around and have built things that predate all this flood thing. So obviously,
right, that
closes that. The couple kind of humorous theories that Christians say is that the Grand Canyon was the toilet bowl. That's where all the water drained into the Grand Canyon, and that's what created the Grand Canyon.
That's not big enough.
I could tell by the look on your face you never heard that one
No,
before.
I have not. But I mean, this is even weirder than a few months ago. I had a Christian scientist, an oxymoron, basically say that God sneezed and that was the Big Bang. This is stranger than that.
Well, that's pretty interesting. The other interesting theory is that the fossils prove the flood. That all the fossils that we have prove that God wiped everything out at once, even though it's very obvious. If you can go to different hills or mountains, and you'll find fossils from the top of the mountain that are from a much different time period than fossils at the bottom of the mountain.
Or if you want to save yourself the trip from going to all these mountains and hillsides, go to the fucking library, or just Google this shit. Look it up online. Find reputable sources that combat shit like this. Like the fact that dinosaurs never walked the earth with man. But anyway, let's get to the news. Alex, what do you got?
So let's see. The first one I got here is this is
another oxymoron.
This is pretty comedy here. So the best science film from the Christian Film Festival goes to Ray Comfort for The Atheist Delusion. So the only science in the movie is that Ray Comfort asks people, how could DNA evolve? And that's the science part.
So they bring up a question that nobody has the answer to. And as we pointed out before, God bears the responsibilities for the simple-minded until science tells us why certain things happen. They're running out of questions. They only have a few left.
Yeah. So it's like
the best science film awarded by a Christian film festival.
Yeah, if you need some humor, we mentioned it before, but the Ray Comfort banana film where he proves the banana proves God existed. That's comedy gold right there.
You know who gave him that actual banana? It was given to him by Trump's father, who was an orange orangutan.
Okay, moving on. So, Alabama Supreme Court Judge Roy Moore has been suspended for not acknowledging gay marriage. So when I looked this guy up, he's a pretty interesting guy. This is the second time he's been suspended. The first time was he brought in a monument that weighed over 5,000 pounds, 10 Commandments, and he wouldn't take it down. The courts told him he had to take it down. He wouldn't take it down. He got removed then. Now that he's not acknowledging gay marriage, his excuse is this was a politically motivated effort by radical homosexual and transgender groups to remove me as chief. Oh yeah, he was Chief Justice. I don't think I mentioned that. Chief Justice of the state Supreme Court. So he was the big dog on the Supreme Court. So because of my outspoken opposition to their immoral agenda.
Oh, man. It sounds to me like there's a conservative that just doesn't want to do work. That's what it sounds like to me. They're always complaining that the freeloaders of this country, and it sounds to me like Mr. What the hell's his name? Mr. What? Mr. Supreme Court. What's his name? Give me his name.
Oh, this guy, Roy Moore.
Yeah, Roy Moore doesn't want to do his fucking job. Anyway.
Yeah, so we talked last week a little bit about the 9/11 bill.
This is great.
So, I'm still kind of like up and down. But right now, the big thing going on is the Republicans, and actually Congress in general, has a basically buyer's remorse. The interesting thing is when Obama sent the veto back, and denied the bill, he wrote a 3-page letter saying why he vetoed it, the American interest, and all this stuff.
Can we recap that for anybody that didn't listen to last week?
Yeah, so there's a bill that's from 9/11 families of 9/11 victims, and they want the ability to sue Saudi Arabia. We already have the power to sue state sponsors of terror, but currently you couldn't sue a country that's not designated a state sponsor of terror for terrorist actions. So because of the 9/11 committee's findings and because of so many of the hijackers were from Saudi Arabia, they were making a case that they should have rights to sue the country of Saudi Arabia for losses. So this bill came out. It passed overwhelmingly in both houses, which doesn't happen very often.
And this sounds like a very positive bill. Like who would say no to this and why?
So and then Obama signed the veto. And his reasoning for the veto was because it damages sovereign immunity, which is basically what we've established with other countries to kind of keep the peace. And it also opens up the United States for the ability to be sued for our quote-unquote terrorist attacks. That's, when we accidentally drone strike a wedding or, all those different things. We could technically be sued for that. So Obama vetoed it. The Senate has overrid the veto, 97-1. Harry Reid was the only one in opposition. It hasn't voted to the House yet, but right now the Mitch McConnell, Mr. Turtle here, he's coming and saying that it's Obama's fault, that Obama should have done a better job of explaining what's going on in the bill. And
wait, you mean to tell me they didn't read the fucking bill again?
Not pretty much. or Obama's letter explaining why he vetoed it. So now they're saying, oh, there's some troubling security concerns. It's
Thanks, yeah, thanks, Obama.
Yeah, so I mean, where I stand on the bill is still questionable. I think obviously we shouldn't have these. We shouldn't open ourselves up for these lawsuits.
It's a short-term gain for a very long-term loss because we don't consider what we've done terrorism because we are in that country. But I'll get to a few. We got a story coming up regarding that anyway, so that'll hopefully I'll put this in perspective.
Okay, so the next thing I have is Nahid Hattar. He's a prominent Jordanian writer, and he was murdered. He was standing trial in Jordan. So he was on the court steps. He was shot by an imam. He was on trial for inciting sectarian strife, which, you know, the different religion over there, and also insulting Islam for drawing a picture of the Prophet. Unfortunately, in these supposedly modern Muslim countries, we've had secular writers and authors being slain just left and right. So we just had to mention this one. The Arab TV covering it, they quoted, "You have the right to criticize a president, a prince, or a king, but not to draw, affront, or humiliate the Lord." So that it's reminds me. September 30th was International Blasphemy Day.
Yes.
I try to celebrate that day every year, so I got to mention that.
I celebrate it every day. God damn it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, blasphemy is not a crime, and this guy was standing trial for it when somebody, a Muslim imam of all people, came up and murdered him. So
yeah, this is reminiscent of last week when we went over, the Saudi Arabia documentary that was bravely made by citizens that are against their government over there, and modern culture and society's my ass.
Next thing I got here, the Philippines president. He's quoted as saying, "Hitler massacred 3 million Jews. There's 3 million drug addicts here in my country. I'd be happy to slaughter them." This guy has been very controversial. So far in the, I think, 3 months that he's taken over 3,000 people have been killed for drug offenses. The other thing he said is, at least if Germany had Hitler, the Philippines would have me. You know, my victims, I would like them to all be criminals to finish the problem of my country and save the next generation from perdition.
And this guy's a huge admirer of Donald Trump as well, and has spoken out against Obama. I mean, he's kind of on the same. He's kind of on par with Trump. I mean, he's also said very derogatory comments towards women and other groups that we would deem to be protected characteristics in this country.
Yeah, and the Philippines is we have pretty good ties with them going back, many years. So he did insult. I think he called Obama a son of a dog, or basically son of a bitch or something. So
and then toned his rhetoric down.
Yeah. I said sorry after Obama canceled the meeting.
Yep.
But yeah. And the last thing I got here just happened yesterday. Trump was speaking in front of a group of veterans, and he said, you guys are all strong. You guys are okay. But some of us, or not us, some are not strong, and those are the ones that get PTSD and commit suicide, basically. So it's just
because they can't handle it.
I mean,
like this fucking man baby piece of shit that dodged the fucking draft 4 times in order to not go to war in 1968. You fucking orange ass pussy.
Yeah, I don't know if he meant it, because we all know he doesn't think before he says something. So I don't know if it's something, as much as he pretends to be, for veterans. I don't think it was something he calculated or thought about before he said it.
But with John McCain, with that comment, I mean, it's hard to say. But you know what's really fucked up about Trump is the shit that he means to say is actually worse than the shit that he doesn't mean to say. So if he didn't mean to say this, I think this is a terrible thing to say, but it is not the worst thing he's ever said. I mean, and I know people that are ex-military or current military that are specifically voting for Trump because he has their best interests in mind. And he's going to say shit like this. I mean, he should have lost every military vote after what he said about John McCain, because as much as I can't stand that guy as a person and him on his policies, I would never, ever say that he's not a war hero because he got captured. Anyway, we got more Trump. Well, speaking of Trump, I'll continue on. So, two little things about Trump here. USA Today says that Trump is unfit for the presidency. They have never gotten politically involved in an election before. On top of that, the Arizona Republic endorsed Hillary Clinton. The Arizona Republic is a conservative Republican newspaper located in Arizona that has been an establishment since 1890 and has never once endorsed a Democrat. So for that to happen, I mean, that's saying something, right?
Yeah, definitely. I saw another one in San Diego, which is also a conservative city, did that. And in the same news clip, it was saying that not a single major newspaper has endorsed Trump.
Right.
So that's a little interesting piece.
Well, I loved how after the debate last week, he said that he won the CBS poll, and as Stephen Colbert pointed out that night on the Night Show, CBS didn't do a fucking poll on who won the presidential debate. So the only poll that he may have won is one that was not had to begin with. Anyway, we got more Trump coming. Anyway, I want to move on here. So real quick, this is an interesting piece of news. Cable box fees. So if you have DirecTV or Comcast or whatever, you pay a fee for your cable box. Actually, my wife and I were just having a discussion a few weeks ago because we found out that we're being charged almost $20 a month just to have our box in order to have their service. So basically, the FCC has demanded that cable companies or cable providers need to come up with some form of app, or they need to make their product available to one-time cost devices like Apple TV and Roku and the Google Play box and shit like that. So it was looking like this was going to turn out to go really well, except basically they're going to wait to develop these apps because the FCC is appointed by the president. So if Trump gets elected, I highly doubt this is going to come to fruition. But a spokesperson for Comcast stated in an interview with The Verge that the FCC would stop the app revolution by making an overcomplicated government restraint on creating technology.
Yeah, but this is just, and to be honest, not to take a shot at our candidate, but Hillary's just as big business. So sure. I think this is more of a big business thing, more than whether it's Trump or Hillary or Obama. It's, you got these Comcast, Time Warner, all these guys pouring all their money into saying kill this thing. We're enjoying all this money that we're charging you. You don't have a choice, right? I mean, you want cable, yeah, you got to get our box.
Of course. But, so, and I will point out that you can get Netflix and Hulu and watch just as much as you do with cable besides sports and pay $25 a month. I did it for years. But kind of a sports fiend during football season, so I can't afford it. But, comparing Trump to Hillary on this, I think, when it comes to big business, it is a very fair comparison to make between the two. But I think I at least am more comfortable saying that this will not change under Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton, I can tell you if I had to bet money, I would bet that she would not fight for this, but I can't bet you that it won't change. So to me, Hillary Clinton, when it comes to big business stuff like this, it's a little more, even if by a fraction, it's a little more of a toss-up. I'm way more, I will tell you what Trump is going to do. I'll tell you what I think Hillary's going to do. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, but I think it's in Congress too. So we'll see how the new. I think it's a bill that they're voting on as well. So
right,
we'll see. I guess how the smaller elections go too.
Yeah. So moving on. Last weekend, we saw the highest amount of children's deaths in eastern Aleppo. If Gary Johnson or any of his supporters by chance are listening, Aleppo is located in Syria. So
he said, real quick before, it's a serious topic, but he said if you can't find a country, you can't go to war with it. Basically taking the libertarian position of
get all the fucking globes out of the White House. Perfect. We will make peace through ignorance for the very first time. Name your favorite foreign leader. Couldn't come up with he came up with President Fox, former President Fox of Mexico, with the help of his running. Fuck Gary Johnson. Anyway, I mean seriously, how are you going to talk with your tongue tied during an interview? Talk about being presidential. Trump hasn't even done that. I mean, he's a man baby, but he's yet to stick. Anyway, so to a serious topic here. Last weekend, we saw the largest amount of child deaths in eastern Aleppo. We had 93 children killed. This is just weekend before last. 93 children were killed, and 223 were injured in eastern Aleppo from airstrikes flown by Syrian and Russian planes. A doctor of Aleppo, when interviewed by UNICEF, told UNICEF that children, it's gotten to the point now to where children with low chances of survival are being left to die due to lack of capacity and supplies. And I think actually since this article was written, we had even more doctors flee that area.
When I looked at it, I saw 4 hospitals in the last week that were bombed.
Yeah.
I did see today that Geneva in Switzerland, they simulated an attack on one of their major hospital. Basically, I guess it was kind of like a firework display kind of thing, but just to show kind of what happens. It was against, the United States bombed one in Afghanistan last year and also in Syria, just to show. I mean, I think Doctors Without Borders put it on.
Yep.
Those guys do amazing work, and they're pulling out because we can't keep a no fire zone
right
on the hospitals, and it's we don't talk about it enough, the situation in Syria, but it's been horrible for years, a year, over. Yeah. And it's not getting better. So
well, and let's look at this. I mean, the moral compass in Russia is led by the Orthodox Catholic Church, and obviously you have a Muslim religion being the dictating moral compass throughout that whole region, including Syria and Assad. All of them are pro-life. But is anybody thinking about? I mean, both religions are pro-life. Is anybody thinking about any of these 223 fucking kids or these 93 that fucking died just in the last weekend? This is fucking war. So you want your fucking law and order president. You want the president that's going to go with strength, meaning military strength. You want this military industrial complex to continue. This is what you get dead fucking children. Anyway, moving on to kind of some positive news. Update on Wells Fargo. So, California has pulled out the majority of their business dealings with Wells Fargo, and Wells Fargo last year saw $1.75 billion in transaction fees through the state of California. And the even better news is Illinois has followed suit, and Illinois pulled out all of their business, which is accounting to about $30 billion that they are losing. So I mean, they are taking a pretty big hit. It's a little discouraging that Mr. Strumpf, the CEO, that Elizabeth Warren bent over her knee and paddled in front of Congress. He's only paying back $41 million in penalties over the scam that they did, where they created 2 million accounts and affected somewhere around 250,000 people. Start a hashtag about this. Forgo Fargo. That's what I'm thinking. Pull your fucking money out of Wells Fargo. Hashtag Forgo Fargo. But a few other things. Like I said, it's only it's only a drop in the bucket. I mean, Wells Fargo reported $22 billion in revenue in 2015, and it has already grossed $5.6 billion just in quarter 2 of 2016. So it's great, but I mean, it's a drop in the bucket. But I mean, at least some people are taking action. Now, imagine if more states, at least the blue ones, were to take more action on this. We got to hold these people accountable, and that's the best way to do it. What do you think?
No, I agree that the thing is, even with the 41 million of stocks, it's not like we're not actually going back and saying you owe us 41 million, or Wells Fargo saying you owe us 41 million dollars.
Right.
What they're doing is they're taking 41 million in stocks, which would have appreciated anyways. You know, it's just it's like the punishment
It's bullshit, and he
it
still
seems
stands
like
to
it's a
see
lot of
his
money.
200. He still stands to see his $200 million walkaway money too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but you know what? It's a small step, but it's at least somewhat in the right direction. Lastly, for news, a 14-year-old girl is being charged with pornography for taking what is termed as racy photos of herself and sending it to a friend. She faces a few penalties, a few charges, one of them being having to register herself as a sex offender. Let me run through a few of these facts, and we'll go ahead and start the discussion. So she sent the photos to a friend. 2 photos have been released, not to the public, but to the attorneys that are involved here, and allegedly they do not contain nudity. It looks like the photos were taken of her and the 14-year-old girl wearing boy shorts with her hair covering her chest area. And then another one wearing the exact same boy shorts, wearing a sports bra. So as of right now, allegedly no nudity. So what's being placed on her is, unless she agrees to attend a dangers of sexting meeting, admits that her actions were wrong, and signs for it, she will be charged with sexual exploitation of a minor. So the images, by the way, were discovered when 2 teens at a high school, Knoxville High School, were caught printing them in mass production, and they were printing these photos along with nude photos of both male and female underage students. Nothing on whether or not they got in trouble, but if you ask me, they were contributing to child pornography more than this girl was. But what the parents are fighting is that child pornography laws are meant to protect the child, not prosecute them. And under the law, no nudity was actually shown. Therefore, it is not child pornography. They argue that they see worse on beauty pageants and reality television. So, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this?
Okay, so I think I understand the law. I see why you have the law. I think when you listen, when you say what she has to agree to and the danger of sexting class, I think that's an adequate punishment. I don't think she should be registered as a sex offender. But the problem is, in today's society, you still have sickos, right? That have children that just are using them for child pornography, and they do get busted once in a while, and we do have those cases. But I imagine, and obviously this is just a guess, but the underage nude pictures that have come out in the last 5 years, 90% of them are from cases exactly like this, where either it's a picture they've taken of themselves or the boyfriend takes of them, and then what happens, obviously, like these kids, right? I mean, you're a teenage boy.
Right.
You just,
It's not to say we support it, but I mean, you're fucking kids. I mean, you just went through puberty. I mean,
but I think you should be punished, though.
Sure.
In my opinion, and the problem is, what happens when your Trump supporting uncle, gets a hold of your phone. And that's when it changes. It goes from...
It's all bad when Uncle Roy gets a hold of the goddamn phone with nudie pictures. It's just not good for anybody.
especially with those little teens. It's just... It goes from something that's I mean, normal for adults to do from one to the other and stuff like that. But what you're possessing is basically illegal. So it's a tough one. I don't think they should, like I said, shouldn't be a sex criminal, but it should be punished just because otherwise it's just gonna not encourage, but
right.
A society where it can just flourish, and we need we should stop that.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think the state should be in charge of it, and I'll get to that in a minute. I mean, the first thing I'll say about the punishment is I would like to say leave it in the parents' hands, but you can't always trust the parents. But I would like to think that if these things do go in circulation, if a girlfriend gives in to her boyfriend requesting photos like that, and she gives in and sends it, and he circulates it to everybody, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, and this goes for males too, they may not be mature enough to realize that that's exactly what the possessor of these photos are going to do. They're going to show people. Maybe not mass production, maybe just their close friends, who knows, but the odds of it going into the wrong hands just dramatically increased by that. So I don't know if the punishment is punishment enough for the embarrassments of these things already being in circulation.
Well, the reality is not just embarrassment. I mean, I saw it was in France recently, but a woman committed suicide because...
there are those cases as well. But, this girl will never... we talk about the revolution. We talk about people running for office. She'll never be able to do that. Because once it's out there, it's fucking out there. It's not going away. You sacrifice so much by taking that tiny risk just to show your boyfriend or girlfriend what's under your clothes. But what I'll say about the state trying to punish her, make her a sex offender, that sort of thing. We make child pornography laws and we make statutory rape laws because we acknowledge the fact that that people that young are not mature enough to make proper decisions about sexual activity and exploring sexual boundaries, that sort of thing. Even though they all do, we understand that they're not mature enough to do that. How can then the state punish them for acting irresponsibly with something that we knew they shouldn't have, that we don't want them dealing in anyway? To me, it sounds a bit contradictory. I agree with you. There should be major awareness about this. There should be some sort of punishment. I just don't know if the state, at least,
who else is going to do it? I mean,
I know
it is a kind of a slippery, maybe
right.
Infringing on rights, but at the same time, it's for their own good, and we have alcohol laws, same thing, and we'll
exactly.
See how this one.
We don't know. I don't know what the right answer is, but what the state is doing about it here, or trying to do, I don't think is the right answer. So that's it for the news for this past week. But we got a few discussions that we want to bring up. One of them is, I miss my old state of Washington. Kind of missing it. I like the direction they're taking. To give you guys a little recap, let's go over Portugal real quick. So 16 years ago, Portugal decided to start treating their drug addicts as an illness rather than a crime. And they saw dramatic decreases. And what they're saying right now is that basically they opened up these clinics throughout Portugal where you can go in and they don't supply your drugs, but they will supply you clean instruments under doctor supervision with addiction aid readily available. And what they're noticing is that as they've continued to turn away those that use drugs on a recreational basis, not on an addictive basis, the recreational use is around 80%. The addiction use is around 15%. And this is a huge drop from where they started 16 years ago. And when they did propose this to the UN, they were pretty much scolded and told that they're crazy by the UN Drug Oversight Committee, which is the International Control Board. And now Seattle's starting to do the same thing. Seattle is trying to open up what they're calling safe consumption sites. And the goal, again, is to give them a place to do this, not supply the drugs, but supply the needles or whatever they need under doctor supervision in hopes to prevent disease like HIV through needle sharing, keep the usage off the streets, which will also lower the amount of social rejection, which is what keeps these people in the dark and turns them to addicts. It's a huge contributor for that. And lastly, the sites will have access to immediate care and abuse assistance. And it's received the support of the law enforcement agencies throughout King County, which is where Seattle's located.
I think that's the biggest thing, the biggest difference between Portugal and these other countries. It's still illegal. Drugs are still illegal, but there's no jail time if you have up to a 10-day supply. So drug dealers, those people are still punished. So I think treating it as a health issue and not a legal issue is the biggest step. And we'll see, what Seattle proposes outside from just having the clinics. But if people are still going to jail, or if cops are waiting right outside and picking them up, we're going to obviously not go in the direction that we need. The other thing that Portugal has done so far is the use of synthetic like marijuana and the bath salts and stuff. That stuff has dropped a lot since you don't go to jail for having the real stuff. And the synthetic marijuana has caused a lot of health issues over here. So, it's moves in the right directions. And like you said, the drugs are not supplied. That's the first thing that people would probably jump to and think, oh, you just go there and get high.
They're legally selling heroin on the streets now. Jesus Christ.
They're just giving it away.
Yeah, but again, kind of miss my old state, man. They're minimum wage, social issues, marijuana, and now how they're treating drug addiction. The Seattle area in particular, but Washington State as a whole, they're stepping up.
Yep. Okay, so next thing we got here. So Mr. Donald Trump.
Him again?
And so somebody released pages, I think 3 pages, of his 1995 tax return. In his 1995 tax return, he claims $916 million of loss. Almost $1 billion. Pretty close. On his federal tax return. So what that is done basically through loopholes. So this is not just every rich person can't do this. Donald Trump has over 200 limited liability companies, from his steaks to his wine to all this different shit. So
which most of them have been canceled.
Most of them have
production
gone horrible, but that actually helps because he's able to deduct losses from businesses against his profits.
Right.
So it's almost profitable to have all these businesses go out of business and lose money, and just say,
so
"Oh shit!"
You're saying he brilliantly schemed this and meant to do it? Because when Mike Pence was asked about this by Kane tonight, he said Trump brilliantly navigated the tax code. And what, Mr. Kane? Do you not take your deductions? Who doesn't take the deductions? I take my deductions.
And I mean, Giuliani's calling him an economic genius for this. And I mean, I guess on one hand, it's true. I mean, if you can do it, yeah, you can do it. The problem is this is the guy that's supposed to run our country, right? I mean, even Mitt Romney, who potentially has more money than him, he's not a billionaire, but Mitt Romney released his taxes. Right. He paid an effective 14% tax. It was like $1.9 million on his $14 million that he brought in, but he still paid that $1.9 million. Donald Trump's $916 million loss means this is the tax code is just it's if you're in real estate, you get a different tax rules than everybody else. So right there, it's fucked up, right? So right. Because of that loss, he can go back 3 years prior and adjust his taxes from there. And then the next 15 years from 1995, he can offset up to $50 million in income, right, which was more than The Apprentice paid him or more than he made doing anything else in that time. So any money that he made legally, he could just write it off as no income. So up to $50 million, he pays absolutely zero taxes on.
Well, and I can't remember if I mentioned one of these points earlier, but I'll mention it twice if I did. But Tim Kaine tonight brought up how when Pence said that Trump is supporting our troops, that this guy's not when 9/11 happened, he's not paying in to help our bridges, our schools, all the things that we use our tax dollars for, of which we've missed out on millions and millions of dollars from Donald Trump. And basically while Hillary and other people were fighting to rebuild New York and fight for first responder benefits and all that, this guy was fighting to not pay his fucking taxes. I mean, it's just brilliant or not, which I'm not saying at all that it is. Where is his patriotism then?
Yeah, Mark Cuban said, the most patriotic thing a rich man can do besides joining the military is pay your taxes, which that obviously makes sense. But the part that just irony, it's too bad conservatives don't understand it, because it just slaps him across the face again. When you hear him talk about welfare, how many people cheating welfare does it take to add up to $916 million of loss? And
I have no idea.
When you hear them complain about people not paying their taxes, that's always the big thing. Oh, people need skin in the game. Even people that make $10,000 should pay $500 in taxes just so they have some skin. What about this guy? What about this billionaire who all he has to do is somehow lose $1 billion on casinos?
Yep.
It's like the one place where you're almost guaranteed to make money, and you're good for the next 15 years. It's
he
amazing.
makes money with contributions when people show up with chips and throw them on a fucking craps table and walk away. I mean, the guy is just shady, and it was funny to watch Pence dance around that tonight, because I've watched Trump supporters do it over the last year, and Pence did it better than anybody else, but that man's been in politics for quite some time, and he still did not pull it off well. But anyway, we got to move on from here. I'm sure we'll have plenty more to talk about with Donald Trump. Also, don't forget that we have our second presidential debate between Clinton and Trump coming up this coming Sunday. So be sure to stay tuned for that. We're actually going to hold off on recording the next episode Sunday night. We're going to record it probably Monday so we can do our debate coverage on that. But so we got another new segment that we're going to start ending everything with. Check it out, guys.
Now it's time for AOR's The Giant Dicks of History. And that's going where?
All right, yeah. So Giant Dicks of History.
Yeah, that's an awesome intro.
Okay, so what we're trying to do here, we're gonna do a couple. It's not gonna be the same every week. Sometimes we're gonna introduce somebody new that just did some horrible things that maybe are not so well known. What we're gonna do today and other weeks, we're gonna take somebody who we know and typically have a good reputation, and we're gonna talk about some of the bad things.
We're gonna humanize them. We're not gonna let them be on the huge pedestal that they normally sit on. And guys, we got some very interesting stuff about some people that you are very well aware of, starting with this one.
Yeah, so this one just started. Me and my son were talking about Tesla and the different things, and Edison, and so today we're gonna Thomas Edison is gonna be our first giant dick of history. So with Edison, he's known. He has about over 1,000 patents. I think more than anybody in history. That doesn't make him a dick necessarily, but the problem was he made money off a stock ticker, sold the first one, and then he basically had an invention sweatshop where he hired all these people to come in, do different experiments, some on their own, some with him. Whenever they found something, he would patent it. So, interesting there. The reason he became a dick is the first thing with Tesla. Tesla started working for him, and he was having this problem with his direct current motors. So he told Tesla, I will give you $50,000 if you improve the efficiency of this motor. And Tesla took the challenge, came back, completed it, and only to hear, you don't understand American humor. That was a joke. So
I sense a little bit of Trumpiness in there. He offered money for a service, got his service, and then stiffed somebody on the job.
Yeah, he didn't do a good job on it. So, yeah. So that's we started there. The next thing, again with Tesla, they had the war of currents, which is Tesla was for alternating current AC, and Edison was direct current DC, and Edison was trying to prove that Tesla's method was dangerous. So he did different experiments. He electrocuted dogs, cats, horses.
What a dick!
Just to show the dangers of the alternate current versus the direct current. And the reason we put him that he made the dick list over here is because when New York had a prisoner they needed to execute, they asked Thomas Edison to advise them. So he used Tesla's AC current and made the first electric chair. The first time they did it, it was horrible. Was not thought out correctly. The man was basically burnt and fried alive.
Did they not know the sponge is supposed to be wet? That sounded more like Bill Clinton than Percy Jackson.
That's what I was.
I did not know the sponge is supposed to be wet.
I was wondering what Bill was doing in there.
I was gonna dip my cigar in it, but
yeah. So he electrocuted the first man, yep. So those are just some things that people don't know too often.
And Tesla has gotten extremely popular over the last few years. I'm sure there's a lot of people that probably know his name and may have connected him to the Tesla Tower, but maybe haven't. So let's finish this giant dick with a meaningful person of history. What were some of the accomplishments? Because Tesla went off on his own right after that, and also tried to do a few good things, and his AC power was meant to basically, if we would have developed that by now, we could be very close to being energy self-sufficient 100%, or damn near close to it, right?
Yeah, I mean, we do use AC power in the houses, so it is something that's very popular. But the way that Tesla was trying to go was different, and to make energy free and to make it be able to be sent long distances. So he did push the AC. He was working on some other things, radio control frequency. He was the first person to build a remote control, like a RC car and things like that. So he definitely ahead of his time, definitely had humans in mind and not a profit, which, right. That would be nice once in a while. So yeah, it's the whole Tesla versus Edison thing is a pretty interesting story. Check it out. I would definitely read it. And Tesla, like you said, he's becoming more and more popular, partly because Elon Musk named his cars after him. So
yeah, and Elon Musk is doing some amazing stuff as well. But I don't know if the show's still on in 50 years. We can find something dickish he did and bring him up. But
it might be for Mars. I don't know if you heard his new.
Yeah.
Pretty ambitious in the next I think 50 years to get 1 million people on Mars.
He should send Trump.
just one.
Space orangutan, space monkey. Send his.
He wouldn't even be the first monkey to be in space. I think we've done that before.
He'd be the first monkey Martian. Be piece of shit. Anyway, thanks for listening, guys. We hope you're enjoying the new format that we started last week, and then including the the 2 segments we started this week. Let us know what you think. Put your comments or keep emailing us your questions. We really appreciate that we asked for it and you guys totally delivered. We'll try to get to basically what we think will be the best, not really the most complicated, but definitely the most desirable question that Alex and I have probably heard in our personal lives, where people try to stump us with certain things. Or if you're going through a problem such as the question we had today, feel free to send that to us. You can private message it to us at the Age of Reason podcast page on Facebook. You can also write it on our website. You can comment on the episode. However you want to do it. That website is aorpodcast.com. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next time.